Welcome. I feel like Godzilla coming in and like destroying Tokyo. But again, we're on the grind. We're going to learn some TypeScript basics today. We are going to dive into a little bit about a build tool called VITE, very popular recently, like that, very useful. And yeah, we're going to do a live code along and stuff like that and work a little bit with Kintone. And yeah, it's going to be a good workshop. Our code and our slides here at this link right here. Git Clone like that if you haven't already. We'll do it together anyways. And if you want to go ahead and get like a Kintone subdomain like that, it's not super hard, but we will also do this together. And definitely number 3, ask questions and participate in the chat. I'm here to talk to you. This is a very intimate session thing that we like to do, and it's totally cool if you're like, hey, I don't understand this, or if you have something to add. We're all learning together on this cool journey of coding that never ever ends. So yeah, we're going to just dive right in and start with a git clone of our repository. So let's scroll on over to our browser. Here's Sean Kintone, published to Medium. Go ahead and use your preferred method. You can clone from the terminal. I'm going to clone into published to Medium right here. We are going to change directories into our new published to Medium folder. You will see a couple of files if you list those out, and go ahead and just open those up in VS Code or your favorite editor. So we've cloned into our repository. Very good stuff. And after we clone into a repository, next thing in our steps also, we need to install our packages, right? That's always a pretty good thing to do. So you're gonna go ahead, put npm install. Cool pro tip, you can just do npm I. Very fancy, does the exact same thing. You'll look a little bit cooler. Also, if you have not ever participated in our workshops before, you may have to install globally our Kintone Customize Uploader. Go ahead and copy and paste this command into your terminal and install it. And this Kintone Customize Uploader, it's not strictly necessary, but it does like help our workflow where you'll be able to run a command in the terminal to like automatically upload your JavaScript into your Kintone environment that we'll be making later on today. What is a Kintone subdomain? What is Kintone? In short though, this will be your Kintone subdomain. I have sean.kintone.com. You can log into it. And it is basically your control panel where you can make cool Kintone apps and databases, backends, APIs all in one go. And you will make this. For today's workshop, our code base is based on like having a Kintone backend, and that will set up our database for us. So no like making out tables and columns in MySQL, for example. You don't have to code out your API routes like, okay, if you hit up /get, then it'll get this information from this database and so on and so forth. You don't have to do any of that. And so that's why we're using Kintone. And I like to use Kintone in order to streamline and make our backend development faster. And what you want to do is you want to go to kintone.dev via this bit.ly link right here, and go ahead and get your Kintone subdomain. All right, and what that's going to look like is we have our kintone.dev, and I'm going to scroll down to the link manually and get a developer's license. There's no payment involved. We don't sell your data or anything like that. Basically, it's just a demo environment for you guys to use. Just fill out this form. Just fill it out with your name and your email address. Let us know like whereabouts in your coding journey you are, and if anything led you here, blah blah blah. You guys know the drill. This create your Kintone developer license subdomain. And what is a subdomain? A subdomain is this part right up here in your URL. What comes before the .kintone.com. So notice mine is cool and just sean.kintone.com. I got that short URL. So literally you could just post whatever you want. So if you want to be like workshop.kintone.com, that's totally cool. That's all you have to type. Lowercase, numbers, and hyphens only. And when you do this, it will send you an email link. Follow the email link to activate your account. And when you first log in to your subdomain, the email address that you gave us is going to be your login name. Like that, you can later change it to just be whatever you want. But the first time that you log in, it is going to be your email. So like my first time was like Sean@kintone.com, and I just changed it to Sean later. Get your Kintone subdomain. The login name will be your email, your subdomain.kintone.com. If you need help, we've tried to predict a lot of common problems or mistakes that people have like that. So definitely check out the README in the GitHub repository, but also ask questions anytime, please. All right, we are making a Kintone and medium.com publishing workflow, which I think is a really good use case for Kintone, but also just good practice for TypeScript. Everybody wants to know TypeScript. If you're job hunting or getting started in your coding career, every place is going to be like, oh, you have knowledge of TypeScript. We're going to be practicing using a post API, and we're also going to be using the VITE build tool, which is pretty cool. What we will be making here is we'll have some markdown text. You click your magic post to medium.com button, and all of a sudden, hey, we have some published stuff in our medium.com account. Pretty cool, right? I could replace medium.com with like dev2 if you want to like expand or like practice the contents of this workshop like that, maybe even make it into like a nice demo for your portfolio. Definitely just try it with dev2, totally doable. All right, we're gonna set up our projects like that. We've already installed our dependencies, and we're gonna later on make a database with Kintone. Then we have to set up some accounts and API tokens. We gotta like make a medium.com account, spit out an API token. We have to use a command to get our author ID. And then we'll be doing the live code along. So we'll get our API data all nice and formatted from a Kintone app. We'll create a button in the app like that, connect the button, and then we'll push it. Here's an overview of our repo, and we are going to be coding a couple files today. So if you go to our VS Code over here, you can see pretty much we tried to recreate this. We are going to be creating an M file that has all of our secret tokens and keys in it, which is super secret. You never show anybody. We're going to be connecting our Kintone app using this customize-manifest.json, and then we'll be doing a lot of coding in the main.ts. And also we have one thing where we have to get our author ID, and we'll be like inputting our API token into this text file over here. If you are more of like a do everything in VS Code person, and you're like kind of get lost or something like that, we do have all the completed code right here in the repository. And we also have a step-by-step that you can look at in Markdown, and it'll basically tell you step-by-step what we're gonna do today. So definitely check that out. All right, so we're gonna go into TypeScript, and I'll explain exactly what it is. Not that scary, I promise, like that. A little bit annoying, but it does have a lot of benefits actually. And we'll also be going into this VITE tool like that. So first off, what is TypeScript? TypeScript is JavaScript. Your web browser read HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. No browser actually like reads TypeScript as it is. TypeScript only exists like on your computer or development environment. And what happens is that your build tool, VITE Webpack or Create React App, it takes the TypeScript that you're coding in, and it'll compile that and spit out a JavaScript file. And then that JavaScript file is what your website is actually running and what your browser is reading, for example, like that. So TypeScript does not really like get read by anyone like that. Okay, no one's gonna read it. Why do we have TypeScript? Like that. TypeScript is for developers, and it is for your development environment. And specifically, in my opinion, it is for one, huge code bases that are so huge that you forgot what you actually coded, which hopefully you guys all get there in the future like that. It's kind of fun. And two, when you're working with multiple people like that. When you're first getting out, like started coding like that, and you're like following tutorials on YouTube and stuff like that, like the code bases aren't super huge when you're making your Hello World app. What TypeScript does is it has a type system with different types of variables, integers, strings, booleans like that, true or false, null, and actually any other type that you can define yourself also as well. So like HTML elements, like I can define a type that is just radio buttons, and I can enforce that in my code. It sets the types sometimes for you if you don't specify, or you can specify like, hey, this variable is only supposed to take an integer. And you can use colons, interfaces, or initial values to do that. So what does that even mean? Gosh. We'll explain this more when we get into the code, but when you're doing TypeScript, there's a couple different ways to define what a variable should have. So I have a couple right here, but we'll get to that. Let's say you're coding along and we need to make like a new variable for something. So we'll do const my variable. And in JavaScript, you just do this, right? Wow. That's good. Or you could do let my variable equal 0. You're not actually supposed to double that, but whatever, right? So we'll do let. And later on, if this is just pure JavaScript or something like that, you could just reassign it as well. So like later on in your code, you could do, okay, let my variable equal hello, everyone. Like that. It's giving me red lines because this is a TypeScript file and it's saying like, hey, you can't do that. But in JavaScript, this would be totally fine. And you can reassign these variables and stuff like that. Well, let's say that you're working on a team of developers and you are the experienced developer, like you are the senior dev, for example, like that. And you just hired this new fresh out of coding school dev like that, and you're having them work on your coding base. And you don't want new dev to like mess up your code base, or you want to give them like hints in order to like help them through your code base, which is gigantic and sprawling and stuff like that. You can, with TypeScript like that, designate what type things are supposed to be. So this my variable is only supposed to be a number like that. And later on, when you try and reassign it, if you're that new dev and you're like, okay, let's just change my variable to a string later on, TypeScript will, in your editor, be like, hey, you can't actually like call this. What are you doing like that? And it'll tell you like, hey, this type is not assignable to this type and stuff like that. And those are, one, yeah, they're kind of annoying, but also two, they help you kind of like get through the code base and be like, maybe I'm like mistakenly coding the wrong place or something like that. So that's one way that you can assign types in TypeScript like that. And you can use it with this colon right here. So let, and then my variable name, you do a little colon right here, and then the type. So there's different types, right? You can have number, you can have string, for example, like that. You can have Booleans. Totally cool. So if I did a Boolean, I'd have to change this to like false, right? Or you could just not assign it at all. You could just assign it later. Like later on, it's going to be a Boolean. Totally cool. Nothing's getting angry at me, right? You can also mix and match some types like that. So I want my variable to be a Boolean. You do one bar like this. You can see it above too. This should be a Boolean, or it can be a string. Sure, because sometimes people might like type false like that manually instead of doing false as a variable. So you can assign multiple types like that. And let's say like you have no idea what this is gonna be. You can just like not assign and it'll implicitly decide later on for you. Like if you were to do like my variable equals 0, it's gonna like decide in your editor that like, oh, this is an integer, and then it'll automatically cast that type for you. Or you can do this one. So let my variable equal any, type any. And what that is it's going to say, yeah, anything can go in here, totally fine. Which does kind of like ruin the point of TypeScript. And yes, I have used any at a time when I was like too lazy to actually get through like or figure out like what's gonna go in here. Don't abuse any, but you can use it. And this is all your editor telling you this. It is to help basically large code bases and to help kind of like people who are unfamiliar with your code either edit it or follow along, or to help you protect your code from lazy devs. So when you are making a variable, like I was talking about before, and you want to type it, you can also do JavaScript objects as well, just in case you need to know. You can also do arrays, right? And arrays are a little bit special, right? Think back to coding tutorials and stuff like that, right? Arrays are lists of different types of data, right? And an array could be, for example, this is mistaken, but just let me deal with it. An array could be my array. Let my array. And in those brackets, right, you could have, for example, a Boolean. So you could do true. You could have an integer. You could have a string. All these kinds of different things, right? You could even have an object, and that object will have my key is equal to my value. Stuff like that, right? Anything can go inside of an integer. So when you are doing types in TypeScript for an array, you also need to specify, or should specify, what goes inside of the array. And you can see it right up here in this tags part. We kind of did it, so that's a hint. It uses these arrows, which might seem a little bit weird, but you can then put it here, okay, strings, and we'll do a number, sure. So this array can have, my autocomplete is messing with me. This array of ours can have strings and integers in it, for example. And then later on, if you were to do like, okay, var dot push, right? We push into arrays, for example, like that, true. It's gonna get angry at you because like, hey, you can't put that Boolean into this array. You didn't say Booleans can go in here. So very, very good point about arrays. And then a second point, so it's been up here kind of teasing us this whole time. What the heck is an interface, right? And an interface is basically a way to define a lot of different types all at once. I have some interfaces for some objects, which really helps because you have these JavaScript objects, which are long, complicated structures of data, right? So like we'll talk about it later, but like our post body that's gonna get posted to medium.com, our article will have a title, it'll have some content and like some notifications, stuff like that, right? At the beginning of your TypeScript files and within functions and stuff as well, you type in interface. What is the interface? So you can name it whatever you want. So like my object, right? You open it up. Well, what is my object gonna have? It's going to have some data1, and that'll be a string, and then you do a semicolon and it'll have data2, and that can be a number, for example, and so on and so forth. And this allows you to declare a bunch of different types all in one area and then use it later. So later on, you'll see this interface post body right here. If we search in our code, so right here, I declared a new variable called body, and it is of the type post body. The type post body, what is that? That is a custom type that we've made right here. It's not a string or a number or a Boolean or anything like that. This is our custom type that we defined up here. And so I'm telling VS Code, like, what is a post body? Well, a post body should have a title that is a string. It should have some content, which is a string. It'll have some tags, which is an array of strings. It'll have notify followers, which is either true or false or null. And it allows you to basically like create your own TypeScript objects. So like in the future, let's say you're like the master senior dev, you're the code boss, and you're getting along in your TypeScript environment and you don't want your junior devs to like make weird API calls in your code. You could literally do, I'm not gonna do it in here because that's messy. I don't want people to like make weird stuff. So I could do like interface, and we'll call it important data, like that. And our API token, if someone sends like a random integer as your API token, it's gonna mess up and bug out your whole code base. So I don't want that to be an integer. It has to be a string. And then later on, you can use that important data to make sure that your code stays safe, clean, and kind of readable. That is our brief rundown of TypeScript. How do you feel? Holy cannoli. It is a lot. It is a lot, but that is the basics. It is a way to protect your code and make it like more readable. And if you know how to use interfaces and colons, that's totally all. Yep, TypeScript helps with front-end validation. That's very, very good. It is basically validation, you know. Does this data go in here or is it not allowed in here? You can also use it on the back end. There are some like back-end TypeScript frameworks like that. Express, I think, can do TypeScript. If you're really hip, Elt, which is my favorite alternative to React, can do TypeScript on the back end and stuff like that as well. So like if you're in a big team of devs, it's totally useful. Honestly, if you're just like solo deving like that and you're like, well, I don't want to deal with TypeScript and like this extra stuff. I'm just trying to like stay above water with my coding journey. Just ignore it. Get your JavaScript down first, and then you can work on TypeScript, and just know that all it is semicolons to declare types and interfaces. And what this is doing is I'm telling it like, hey, when you build out my TypeScript code, take it from this main.ts and output it into a Kintone customize-manifest.js file and put it up into a folder up here. And so that's all it's going to do. It'll make a directory called dist for distribution like that. And Vite is really, really fast. Yeah, so Vite also, like, it basically when we have our coding like that and we run some like npm scripts, you know, like we'll be using Vite to like build out our tools, like so Vite build and like stuff like that. And that's all that does really. It's not super important, but in a coding interview or something like that, they might be like, do you have experience with Vite? And there is another kavit with Vite, that's very fun to say, that we will talk about when we are building out our env file, but it's the way that it handles environment variables. Like then you have to put Vite between some of them, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Yep, but it is super fast, which is nice. And when you are like doing coding tutorials and stuff like that, and like building out your website, sometimes you do like npm run start or like npm run dev, right? And it spits out your like web page in localhost 3000 or something, right? That's just what Vite does. It's just a build tool. Yep. I think they recently came out with 3.0 as well, which is cool. All right, guys. And lastly, so we've talked about our front end. We've talked about TypeScript and Vite, and like what is Kintone for our back end like this? And like I said before, Kintone, it's super useful. It is not necessary. If you edit this code to just use your own favorite backend like that, you can totally like take out Kintone like that. What is it though? It is a no-code, low-code platform for you to like easily like build out backends and create data, create databases, and talk about that data with other people, right? And there are a lot of products like Kintone out there. There's web databases like Firebase. I'm sure that you guys have heard of Firebase. Supabase, which is like the open source competitor to Google's Firebase. It's just an online database, right? It is also, though, like a way for you to talk about that data, right? Because when you have a database, right, it's just columns. Like this is our customer ID and their email address and how many times they bought from my store and what they bought last or something like that, right? Those columns of data, and then rows of data, right? Like, oh, this customer, John Smith, and he bought a blanket or whatever, right? That's just raw data. There's no information about that data anywhere. And what Kintone does that's really cool, in my opinion, that nothing else like really does as well, is it unifies communication like that about data. Imagine like you're working on enterprise and your boss is like, hey, can you go and edit that file, yesterday's report? And you're just supposed to magically know where yesterday's report is. Oh, which folder is that in? Or like, where did we start? Are we keeping that in Google Drive? Are we saving it on my computer as a Word file or like Google Sheets or Dropbox or something? And it also combines the messages about that data. And what that means is that on your Kintone like database apps, you have this data right here, right? You also have conversations about that data, and you can like notify people and stuff and be like, hey, Genji, can you check out this file and let me know if it's okay? And I'll just show you because I have my Kintone app right here. I have a database, right, with different records like that. They have record numbers and blah, blah, blah. They also have titles and bodies, hint, hint, hint. We're going to be using this for our code base. And in this data, here's my article title, here's the body. I notified Genji like, hey, thanks for checking my article. I can be like, oh, hey, Genji, please check this again. It hasn't changed though. And he will get that notification and it'll lead them directly to this file and be like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to check as well. Yeah, yeah. So it's a pretty cool tool, in my opinion, for working together in enterprise and stuff like that. And you can do cool things like make up workflows like that, where like you pass things between departments and stuff like that. For you guys, if you are not working at a like corporation right now and stuff like that, Kintone is still useful. And actually, I use Kintone all by myself. And I don't really use the communication tool because I'm not going to write messages to myself like a dork. But what I do, and what Kintone also is a online database that you can make codelessly, super fast. And it also sets up your API routes, and it does authentication, creating API tokens and all that stuff for you. When I'm making a product or when I'm making something for my own personal coding like that, I could do backend development. Like I couldn't do it like off the top of my head, but like I can look up a tutorial and be like, oh yeah, okay, let's install MySQL, right? Or let's install this backend. Okay, now we have to define my database has a title for my article, which has to be a string. We're doing more types casting, right? And blah, blah, blah. Okay, now I have to code out my API routes because I have to get that data. So this is going to be where my GET request comes from. And I have to make sure that it has a API token, stuff like that. Kintone does all that super fast. And we're going to do that today. And it's going to take 5 minutes, I guarantee. And it allows me to focus on front end, which I like front end a lot more than back end. So if you're trying to make cool like demos and things like that, especially if you're building out that portfolio, trying to change jobs or increase your value in the coding sector, totally. Management types, HR, you're super lucky if they understand coding. Usually they don't, right? They just want to see flashy things on the front end, right? And so that's why like when I was searching for jobs and stuff like that, getting coding, I would just make flashy graphs and like flashy, cool like front end things. And then I'd show it off to like HR and they'd be like, oh, cool. Oh, he can code. The truth is I wasn't that great, but like it's really useful to just focus on front end, right? So it allows you to do all this, and you can also enhance all these apps with JavaScript and stuff like that. And like later on, if you work at a place like that, Kintone is super cool, and we hope that you consider it. But it's really useful for individual developers as well to like kind of like work on the front end only. And if you are working at a like company, if you're working at Facebook, great. You don't really need Kintone. You guys are going to be having your own internal tools and stuff like that. If you're working as like one of like 1 or 2 developers at a small to medium sized company, which was my first coding job, no one else knows how to code. They do know how to like work with Excel spreadsheets, but sometimes they need you as a developer to do things that like Excel and like regular databases can't do. And that's where you come in as like the sole like expert. And then you can run and manage this Kintone environment for other people as well. It's pretty cool. I definitely like it, and you can customize it endlessly. This is what we're talking about with like flashy things. You show this to someone at a HR interview like that and they'll be like, oh, cool, guaranteed. And yeah, it's good for self-learning. And also, if you want to make some moolah, a lot of people and a lot of corporations, especially here in Japan, their whole company is just based on building like plugins and extensions for Kintone. That's all they do. And other places in the Kintone marketplace can like pay for those extensions and introduce them with a click of a button. So we're going to actually get to making our database app like I've promised like that. So once you've logged in to your development environment, it's going to look something similar to this. I've kind of like pared mine down and like customized it a little bit with my cool logo marks and flowers and stuff. But what you're going to see is this right here. It's called apps, right? And you might have some apps in here if you're a returner. Yeah. And yeah, you might have no apps in here. That's totally cool. What you're going to do, and we're going to start, is we are going to create a backend database and an app all in one go right now. And it's going to be very, very easy. So click that plus. And you can also import spreadsheets and stuff like that. We're not going to be doing that. We're going to be creating the app from scratch, right? And this is going to be our backend database using Kintone. And we're going to give it a name. So let's do our July Medium Publish Workshop. You can name it whatever you want. Banana, B-A-N-A-N-A-S. There you go. That's how I remember how to spell bananas. And what you'll see here is like a codeless, basically like drag and drop form. And this is basically how you are creating your database tables and you are creating your database like API routes and stuff like that. So going back to our article, when we are posting an article today, what does an article need to have? What does every article have? They always have titles and they have text bodies, like what is the actual content of your article, right? So those are the database columns that we need to make in order to publish our article. And then we need to include a blank space, and that is on the Kintone side. And what we're going to include that blank space is because in our JavaScript code or our TypeScript code, in where that blank space is, we're actually going to insert an HTML button, and that button will say publish to Medium or like publish with one click or something like that. And when you click that button, it will fire off our publishing API, post API point, and basically it'll make our text title and our body appear magically on medium.com. All right. So what you guys need to do is drag one text field and one text area and one blank space into your app. All right. So I'll do blank space because I like my button to be at the top, text, and a text area. And you can make them like bigger if you want. It doesn't really matter. It's just for visual, lit, like that. Very cool, right? And what you need to do now is go into settings. And this is where we're setting up our API calls. Hover over the cogwheel, go into settings. So we're going to name our field. This does not really matter so much. It's just an easy to understand name. I'm going to call it title, the capital T. You can make these required fields like that, which would take a lot of like extra work in a regular MySQL database, right? Like you can make it so like validation happens where no one can post to your database unless they include a title, right? You can just do that with one click here. That's really nice. You can do minimum characters and stuff like that. We're not going to do that. Then the next thing that you need to do in order to set up your API calls. Oh, Alexander, we are not using an app template. It's just a create from scratch. So just create an app from scratch and drag and drop. And in order to set up your API calls though, you need to tell your API like path, like, well, what fields data do you want to get, right? Do you want to get the title field? Do you want to get the text body field? So we're going to call this one title. And this is case sensitive. This is actually very important, right? Code cares about case, and this is where we're connecting our code with our APIs, right? Title with a lowercase t. If you really want to change it, you can, but you have to go into our TypeScript file and basically say like, hey, not lowercase t, but uppercase t, or you can name it something else like heading or something like that if you want to. For our code base and how we've set it up, it's lowercase t, title. Click save again, and we have set up our title API route, just like that. And do the same thing with our text area as well. Name it body or whatever you want to name it. That's not important, not case sensitive. And our field code is body lowercase b for our code. You can make it have a default value if you want. Heading. That's a little bit of markdown. Are we good so far? So create the app from scratch, name the app, drag and drop 3 fields, configure the fields. So we just configured our title, right? Change it to title, lowercase t title, change the body of our text area. So uppercase B for the name of the field, lowercase b for the field code. We all good so far? And the last one is our blank space. This doesn't have like names and styles like that, but it does have something that we can reference. It's called the element ID. And what this will actually do is create an HTML element on your front end code, which is pretty cool. So we're naming this publish to medium with camel case, lowercase p, uppercase t, uppercase m, publish to medium, like that. So in our Kintone app right here, got the gear, publish lowercase p to uppercase t, medium, uppercase m. You could also change this, like I said, but you have to also change it in our code as well. Click save form, and activate your app. Or if you already have the app kind of activated, it should say update the app, like that. Title, lowercase t for the field code. Body, lowercase b for the field code. Blank space gets published to medium and camel code. And your app should look like this when we are done. Activate it. And you should get like this blank screen basically. And that's because we have created a database, and our database has columns, but it has no rows, right? It has no data in it. If you want to move ahead, you can create data like that. So we're going to add a row to our database. Our title of our medium.com article that's going to make us hundreds of dollars in views, right? My cool medium article title. Sure, it's really cool, right? And medium.com allows you to submit articles in either Markdown, which is a way of like formatting text, or you can do it in HTML, like raw HTML. Like if you wanted to, you could do like H1 and then like my heading for my text. And it'll parse that for you and make like big text for you, right? I prefer Markdown because typing in here like HTML is kind of annoying, but you could totally do that too. So in Markdown, you do little pounds for like my heading. And what else could we do for Markdown? Cool quote and stuff like that. Yeah. Bold text. Stuff like that. It doesn't have to be like that. You could just type in like blah, 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 blah if you want. Totally cool. And once you have done that, click save. And you will see your first database entry. Right here, this is the actual database entry. Use the breadcrumbs if you want to go back. Here is my database right here. Record number, title, and body, like that. And you could just copy these or make a bunch of them if you want. And give me another quick show of hands. I will look for two to three hands like that if you are good and want me to proceed along from this part. You should have 1, formatted your Kintone app and the field codes, and 2, created 1 record or 1 row in your database. Create a record, save it. And once we are done with that, we are going to dive into the TypeScript code. We have our Kintone and we have basically made our database, right? Now we need to connect our database to our code that we have, like that. And we're going to be dealing with environment variables, API tokens, and stuff like that, all right? So now go into your code editor, VS Code, and you are going to see a .env.example file. And this is a common practice. If you have like any portfolio things on your GitHub and stuff like that, it is very professional and cool to, if you have environment variables that you use, for example, like API tokens or like secret MySQL database login information, stuff like that, include a .env.example file, and any senior dev that looks at your thing will be like, oh yeah, this person kind of knows what's going on. And if you look at the file here, I'm going to get rid of this. If you look at the file, we have a couple things that we need to fill out. We have our Kintone base URL. And that is your Kintone subdomain that you just created if you did. So mine is going to be sean.kintone.com. And your Kintone username, which you just used to log in as well, because our code is going to have to log in on our behalf, right? And it is going to have to like make some information getting and posting, right? So like you need your Kintone username as well, like that. Yours will probably be your email still. Remember, you just had your email like that, so yours will probably be something similar to this, maybe a Gmail, for example. Mine is Sean. And your password that you created when you logged in is, and definitely be careful with your password. Number 1 cause of hiccups in our workshops is, oh, I didn't type in my password correctly here. So definitely type in your password here. Do not share it with anybody. This is an M file, right? It is best practice. Do not share your M file. And we have 2 remaining environment variables like that. And this is kind of where I was talking earlier about a quirk of the build tool VITE. Vite has very strong opinions about how to handle environment variables. And what it does is it separates environment variables that you use directly in your code, for example, like this author ID and our API token. We actually use those in our API request. We'll go through this file later, but directly in our code, you will see like, oh, here's our author ID and here's our API token. That's in our code, right? So you have to prefix those with Vite when you use them directly in your code. And that'll tell Vite, like when it builds your code out, it'll be like, oh, expose this for use within my code base, like that. And they're trying to like keep things more secure. It's a little bit annoying, to be honest, but like it makes sense. It's a little bit hand-holdy. And you'll notice that these ones don't have Vite. The environment variables that don't have Vite, they get used quote unquote like outside of your code base. So you'll notice that like there's nowhere in our code, like in our like main.ts or like post-api.ts, where we say like, oh, our Kintone login username is equal to the variable of my username or stuff like that. We don't actually use these within our code. We use them when we are like using our package.json upload to Kintone, the Kintone customized uploader. It's like not in our code directly. It's kind of like in our node environment, right? So that's why they separate that out. All right. So we have two leftover things that we need to get though. We need to get our author ID and our API token as well, right? So what you guys are going to do now, if you haven't already, go to medium.com and create an account, because we need to get our integration tokens like that. If you already have an account, sign in. If you do not have an account, just log in real quick with like Google or something like that. It just makes it super fast. Or if you want to do it old school, that's totally cool too. And when you make your account like that, you need to get your API token like that. So go ahead and go to medium.com, sign in. You'll see like your kind of like account like bubble down here, right there, and go to settings in your account like that. And you'll see like you have your name and stuff like that and blah, blah, blah. And you can edit a bunch of stuff. You can do your profile picture and stuff like that. We go down to integration tokens like that. So these are your API tokens. They call it integration tokens. And here is my super secret API token, which I will be revoking after this workshop is done. And what you want to do is give your token like an easy to understand name. So like July workshop Kintone token. Just click get. And it'll spit out an API token for you right here. And you're just going to copy this. You can get rid of it with a revoke at any time. You're just going to copy this into your env file, which we're going to create right here. So let me create .env, and my API token is going to be that long string of text. I'm going to copy this over to my .env. When you have a .env.example file that is not read by your codebase or anything like that, you always want to create a .env.environment file like that. The env is just a template for you to like know what to put in your .env. That's why I just copied and pasted over into my .env file. You put your login info into the .env file, not the .env.example file.
Quick reminder, please do not delete .env.example file.
Yes. So on our backends, like for our code base, we use the .env.example file to kind of like validate the .env file, just to like help you guys along. So like if you were to like add like, oh, my cool env variable in here, if it's not in your .env.example file, like it'll bug out. And so we basically have set this up so it is pretty tight and works together. Yeah. And then the next thing that we're going to do, so we have our API token, right? That's great. We need to get our author ID from medium.com. And unfortunately, it is not in your settings. They do not want to give you your author ID via your settings. It is not like up here in the URL hidden somewhere or anything like that for whatever reason. You have to hit up the medium.com author ID API in order to do that. And so what we're going to do is we prepared a quick terminal command for you in order to get your author ID. Open up this curl author ID dot text. You open it up and we kind of have an explanation. You are going to basically take this command, which starts with curl, right? If you've ever used a curl command, basically that's like in your terminal, it's like a git command like that. And you are going to replace this after bearer space, this all caps VITE API token. You're going to replace this with your API token that you just got right there. So it should say bearer, capital B with a space in between, and then your API token, blah, 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 with an end quote after it. And this is actually a very common like API token convention. Like you will usually see when you're working with tokens, and like in the browser, you can double check this as well. Like it'll say bearer, capital B, space, and then your API token. And what you're going to do is you're going to take this whole line, copy it, copy, go into your terminal and paste it. And it's going to spit out some JSON at you. And that JSON is kind of ugly. So if you want to format it, you can pass it into this JSON pp command, which will kind of like, it's basically like a terminal convention that like most terminal environments have. Windows Live on Linux might not have it, but you might have this JSON pp. And it basically like makes it more readable. That's all it does. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. And this ID right here, see this long ID string, you're going to copy this, copy, and paste that into your M file. So this is basically successfully hitting up the api.medium.com/me API, and it is telling you who am I, and it's telling you your ID, it's telling you your profile picture, your name, your URL, your username, stuff like that. And so once you have this author ID, go ahead, go back into your .m file and paste it. And you have successfully set up all of your M files stuff. I'm going to paste this into my .m.example file real quick. And then I'm going to do a little bit of stuff because this is not my real password. Go figure. And so I'm going to actually delete this .m file and put in my own. So that was kind of a lot of stuff all at once. So once you have your .m file, which is really important, right? Because you need to be able to hit up that API. This is basic API token stuff. Please open up your customize-manifest.json. What this is telling our Kintone Customize uploader, like what app should we be uploading and what files should we be uploading our JavaScripts to. If this is your first app, it is going to be 1. If you already had your Manga database app as well, then like it might be 2. You can check like up here. So we have our July medium.com published working app. So just go to the URL and you'll say like the /35 for me. This is my 35th app because I make a lot of mistakes and delete them. So my app ID is going to be 35. Yours will probably be 1 or 2 or something like that. So go ahead and if you're following along in the code, then check out and put in your app ID. And that's all you need to do with this file. We're here. We are going to explore our code and we're going to hop in here. So we are in our main.ts file. And this is where like most of the meat and potatoes of our development is going to happen here. Looking at the top, just like a regular JavaScript file right here, we have some imports. So we have our style.css if you want to like add some CSS. We don't need to really do that today. We just have like a button CSS and stuff like that we'll be using. And you'll see that we're also importing post to medium from /requests/post API. And if you're ever like kind of like trying to explore code bases and stuff like that, definitely like follow the imports and see kind of where things are coming from is a good way to get started. So we're looking for post to medium in our /request/post API.ts. And you'll see that we are exporting a function called post to medium, right? And so that's what we're calling into our main.ts. And this is also in TypeScript. So you'll see that this takes in a post body, which is an object. Here's our TypeScript right here, right? And we defined what our post body was in our main.ts. And you'll see that right here. Here's what our post body has to be. It has to have a title, content format, content, tags, which is an array of strings, stuff like that. So we already defined like what our post body is. This function takes in our post body, which is an object. It gets from our environment, it gets our author ID, right? Our API call, it gets our token and our headers and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. And then we use Kintone.proxy, which is just an easy way to do API calls and avoid like CORS errors. And what it does is basically all we're doing is posting to the URL up here, which is our API is /users/our author ID posts. And when you hit post on that API URL, it'll take whatever title and whatever body and maybe some images if you decide to add that later, and it'll basically like publish that article for you. That's what that API is. And all we're doing is we are console logging the response, because when we're posting, we're not like getting data and then like kind of like manipulating that data. Like we're not saying like, oh, what is my author ID? And then, oh, add to it and then like save it in our database, something like that. We are sending data to the medium.com API, and then they're going to send us back a response, and the response is going to be like, good, you did it. Or, ooh, you messed up your post body, or like, oh, that's the wrong API token or stuff like that. But we don't actually need to do anything with that data. So we're just console logging it. So that's what our post API logic looks like. And then also we have our interfaces, which define some types for Kintone. And we have our post body. And when you're developing on Kintone, what we like to do is start out with a immediately invoked function or an anonymous function. And what that is basically a function without a name. It is the same thing as you're saying like const function. We'll say my function is equal to blah, 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 right? It is basically doing the same thing as this. It is equal to a function which does this, right? But the reason why we don't add a name is because Kintone itself, like on the back end, also has like its own functions and stuff like that, right? It's building databases and stuff like that. If by some incredible chance you were to like accidentally name your function, like maybe it's like a huge alphanumeric string like that, and it was to be the same exact name that we're using on the Kintone side, it would actually cause an error because you have two functions named the same thing, doesn't know what to do, right? So that's why it's just our best practice with Kintone to start out with an immediately invoked function. You don't need to do that in like your regular React development and stuff like that. But in case you're taking like an interview and someone's like, what's an anonymous function? This is what an anonymous function is. Just a function that doesn't have a value like name, and you call it once and forget about it pretty much. And what this function is doing is when we are showing the details of one of our records in our database like that, run this function which has an event. And what that event is, basically, it is telling us like basically the app ID and the record database like information like that. So this is how Kintone is kind of hooking into our code, right? And so now what we got to do is we are going to basically format our API data, right? And this is where the TypeScript kind of comes in handy, right? So we have basically like our post body, which we defined right here, and we're giving you hints, right? We want strings, we need an array of strings, and we need a Boolean for the last one right here. And so these are all currently set to null, and we're gonna fill these in. And so our Kintone record, right? It is giving us the event for our data. And because we did our TypeScript, VS Code is telling us that we can autocomplete some of these things. Like, look at that. And this is where this is coming from. It is basically because we defined with the interface up here what a record is, like that, in this Kintone.fieldtypes.customfields place. And you can like define your own custom fields in a different file with TypeScript. I didn't really go into it too much earlier, but like you can make, if you don't want to have like a bunch of interfaces at the top of your code, like main.ts, it is kind of ugly, let's be honest. You can basically declare a bunch of interfaces in a different file called .d.ts, fields.d.ts, and then you can basically import them across files, and TypeScript will recognize that and pull them in, right? So we have here our event function, which is coming in. So event dot, thank you type completion, thank you TypeScript. So which record do we have? Well, remember we set those field codes, right, in our database app. Dot title, dot value. Notice it's a lowercase t for title. So this is where if like you're like, no, I want my field code in Kintone to have a capital T, this is where you would have had to change it, right? So we have our title right there. We're getting it from our Kintone backend database. If you're not using Kintone in the future and you want to like do this in like pure like React with your own database, then you'd have to basically pull your database information right here. Our content format right here, we have markdown is how it's going to be. Remember, this takes a string. Thank you, TypeScript. Our content, so this is our post body. So one more time, we're getting it from Kintone. Event.record.body.value, the value of our body field in our app. Here's the title field. Here's the body field. So it's going to get this value. Pretty cool, right? This is what the web database does for you. That. Our tags, which are an array of string tags in order to help categorize our article. So we'll do Kintone, right? An array of strings, so you have to separate them with commas. And we'll do markdown and a TypeScript, for example. And these will help people find our cool medium.com article. Our publishing status right here, public. This is also going to be a string like that. I'm just following along with up here. Thank you, TypeScript and Senior Dev, for helping me. It's telling me we need a string, and it has to be either public, draft, or unlisted. You can double check all of this on the medium.com API documentation. This is all where I got it from. I don't have any of this memorized. And then notify follower is a Boolean. Do we want to notify people when I publish? No, because we're just testing right now. And we have formatted our post body for our API. Great, we are already 1/3 of the way done with our coding like that. And it's all because of the power of TypeScript that it was able to like be auto-completed and done so fast, which is pretty cool in my opinion. Next thing that we got to do, if we look at our app, we don't have currently a way to actually publish, right? There should be like a button or something right here that we click to publish. And so we need to create that button. We created the blank space earlier, right? And so now what we're going to do is we're going to inject an HTML element. Notice some cool TypeScript right here. This button is of the type HTML element. And we're using some JavaScript right here to create an element called a button. And where do we want to put that button? And this is what we're doing on the Kintone side with that blank space. Our button needs to be hooked into that blank space element ID, which we set earlier, right? Publish to medium. We set that earlier in our code, and it needs to be a string. There we go. And once we have given it an ID, we can give it as class like that. I just have prepared over here like upload button. So I can give it a class name of what? Upload button, for example. It's CSS, it's not that important. And then lastly, what is our inner HTML of our button? Then in our inner HTML, it's going to be strings as well. So we're just going to put like my post body or my publish button. We'll do that. There you go. And that's just what like our button text will say on the inside of our button. Totally cool. So we've created a button, and when we actually upload later on, a button will show up right here, right? And it is hooked into our blank space. And then what we're going to do last is we are actually going to run a function when we click our button, right? Because right now, like, our button is clickable, but it doesn't actually do anything. We can see right here, we have my button dot on click, and it's just null, right? We don't want to do null, right? We need to actually do something. And so this is where our import comes into play. We have imported the post to medium function, and it's giving us a little hint right here. Thank you, VS Code and TypeScript. Our function takes in some kind of object called a post body. And this is where TypeScript gives us hints once more. So we have here, instead of null, we have our post to medium, thank you, autocomplete, and it is going to take in a post body. What did I name my post body up here? I named it body, and it is of the type post body. Body. Boom. Save, and we have basically set an on-click function to be fired off when we click on our new button right there. Pretty cool, actually. And just to like review one more time, we formatted our API data to be nice and pretty to send off. We created a button, and then when you click that button, you are going to be firing off this function called post to medium. Post to medium is imported from this post api.ts file, and we've set it all up here for you. Pretty cool. Let's check it out, yeah? So if you've been following along on your actual live thing, then you can now npm run start or npm run upload. And you can see here's where Vite is doing its thing, right? Vite is building for production. And you'll notice, look here, it created our JavaScript file from TypeScript. So what actually gets uploaded to your browser is just JavaScript and some CSS. And that's just what TypeScript is. It only exists in your computer. Actual browsers, they only read and take in JavaScript. So once we've uploaded, I should be able to refresh, and boom, there's my publish button right here. A little nerve-wracking, but let's open up our console over here. Oh, the text is so small, even though I zoomed. Well, whatever. You think we should click it? All right, I'm gonna click it. Ooh, look at that, a nice 200 code, aka a success code. Heck yes, love it when that happens. Let's see what kind of data they sent back to me. So this is where our console.log is coming in from our post API. And they're saying your author ID is blah, blah, blah. And your license, I didn't specify a license. The status is public, just like we said. It has some cool tags. There's my tags. All right. My title is my cool Medium article title, my URL. So this is the response that came back from medium.com. So let's check it out. Oh my God. Where are my articles? You can check out my articles here. I'm just going to click on my profile, Sean Kintone. Oh, yeah, I just published that into my home. Look at that. My heading, a cool quote, and not bold text. I guess I messed up the markdown on that. But our API has successfully published. Look at that right there. Boom, 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 boom. 1 minute read. This should take you 1 minute to read, it says. Very good, medium.com. And you have successfully created a API post, which is pretty darn cool with TypeScript. And you can definitely show this off to other people. Any kind of code database, like professionally, you will be using outside data of some kind. And when I say outside, that could be outside, like posting to medium.com or getting like weather.com's weather API. Or by outside, it could be like a company internal API that your backend devs have set up, and you need to hit up that API to like get your customer list and process it for your website, your company website stuff. You will be using APIs all the time. So this is fantastic skills, definitely useful. And if you want to expand and do a little bit of like extra coding like that and expand on this workshop, we have a couple of homework things that you could try and do. You'll notice that like our publish button, we can click it as much as we want and publish the article 50 times if you just like hit it on it. Or the hard-coded tags are actually like in our code base, these code tags that we use, that's hard-coded, quote unquote, right? Like we just manually put that in right here. Maybe you could turn this into a Kintone API call. You can get this event.record.body, not body, event.record.tags, for example, like that. You could have a list of tags. You can change this into a React app, totally. It's definitely doable. And you can use that reactive framework to basically like, I don't know, show a spinner while you're publishing or add some images into the article, which uses a different API if you go check out the medium.com API documentation. And if you are stuck or if you have more questions about like the Kintone side of things, and like definitely check out our forums as well. So definitely check out our forums, sign up, you can ask questions, you can post stuff like that. And thanks for coming, guys. It was fun. I had fun, and I really enjoy these workshops. So we're signing off here. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.